Well, hello everyone. It is Stony, and I hope you're doing all right. It's very overcast today. I'm telling you, it was like this yesterday. I was going to ride up to Mount Airy, North Carolina. I was going to go up to Pilot Mountain and take a peek at the leaves and see if they were starting to turn up toward the hills. And I got up to north end of High Point, and man, it was just spitting rain. So I said, well, I'll divert southwest and see if I can get over to the hills that way. And I may not ride over to the hills today. As you can see, there's not supposed to be rain today. I watched 2 weather forecasts this morning. My wife and I took our morning walk around 7, and when we walked out the front door, I noticed my truck had rain on it, and it had rained overnight. Not much, like sprinkles, but it came a pretty good drizzle up in High Point. But I watched the weather report, and then I checked. I have 2 weather apps on my phone. Actually, I have 3. I only use 2. I have one called WeatherBug, which I really like, and then there's one called AccuWeather. And I always, if I'm traveling somewhere, I always look at both of them, and they can be exact opposites some days. It's kind of weird. I don't know about the weather. By the way, I'm in Coolamy, North Carolina. This is Route 801. I just turned off the Highway 64, and this goes over toward, well, it'll go over to 601, and you can go to Statesville, Charlotte, whatever, over that way. This will take me over to towards Statesville, or over to Statesville. So yeah, I've been kind of dodging the rain this morning, but I haven't had a chance to ride. I've been out of town. Yeah, the past 2 weekends I've been either busy or gone. I know last weekend I was in Canada. I was up in Montreal, and I got back late. It was a Yadkin River there. I got back around noon on Saturday, and I had some stuff to do around the house. I've got a sprinkler system in my backyard, and they're getting ready to aerate my yard. And some of the nozzles were screwed up. I don't know what happened to them. The previous owner, I don't think he used it that much, but I wasn't going to deal with it, and it kept bugging me. I'm like, well, I got the sprinkler system, and I can get some of them to work, but not all of them, especially in the backyard. My backyard's pretty big, so when we get our yard aerated, you know, you got to keep it wet for a couple days to get the seed and the fertilizer down in the ground. And you know, it's kind of a pain in the butt dragging water hoses and sprinklers all over the yard, and it just takes time and it's aggravating. And I said, well, I've got the sprinkler system, so you know, why don't I fix it? So that's kind of what I did last weekend. I didn't ride on Sunday. I wanted to ride last Sunday, but honestly, I was tired from that trip up to Canada. And I want to get the sprinkler system fixed, so that's kind of what I did. And I spent all week working on it after work, and I got it working. I got it working perfectly. Replaced some of the sprinkler heads. I had 2 lines busted that I had to dig up, and patch the lines, replace some sprinklers, and I was good. So you probably don't care about that, but I just thought I would tell you. I don't want to talk about sprinkler systems, and I know you don't want to hear about sprinkler systems, but what I do want to talk about is adventure bikes. I read an article a couple weeks ago regarding motorcycle segments and what's, you know, what's the fastest growing segment? What are people buying now? Is it cruisers, sport bikes, adventure bikes? What are people buying? Standards? Obviously, according to this article, cruisers are the biggest segment of purchases, which is I guess it's probably no surprise that it still is. I think Harley-Davidson has about 27, 28, almost 30% of the market share, which it's dwindling. I think Honda, just across the board, I'm talking US, not worldwide. I think worldwide Honda just sells more than anybody. But one of the fastest growing segments, and it's only about 7 or 8%, but it is growing, is adventure bikes. And I kind of understand. I see more and more of them. Around my neck of the woods here in North Carolina, especially where I live in Randolph County, it's Harley-Davidson hands down. I'm telling you, it's 10 to 1. I'm guessing 10 Harleys to every other kind of brand. I'm guessing. You know, I'd say probably the second most popular bike is probably sports bikes, crotch rockets, whatever you want to call them. That's probably the second. That's what I see, and it's just what I see. I could be way off base. I do know Harley sells a ton of bikes here. I mean, in my area, within a 25-mile radius, there's 3 Harley-Davidson dealers, and you go another 5 to 7 miles, there's a 4th. So, you know, if that's for my area to support that many Harley-Davidson dealers, they have to be selling. I would think they have to be selling quite a few motorcycles to keep them going. Although there has been a couple dealerships that closed down, which, yeah, you hate to see that, but it is what it is. So, but I am starting to see more adventure bikes, and even where I live, which I never would see them. It was a rarity. It's sprinkling again. I got probably getting rain on the camera lens. But I guess my question to you guys is, do you think that adventure bikes are the new old man's bike? And let me explain what I'm talking about. You know, we all know this, Harley had sold motorcycles primarily to the older rider. You know, guys, and you know, the biggest reason probably is because of cost. They've always been more expensive. It's usually guys in their 40s and 50s that have their careers and their family started, and they want to go and they buy a motorcycle. You know, we all grew up loving Harleys. Most of us, not all of us. And you know, it was. I think most people say, I always wanted a Harley Davidson. Now I've got, you know, a little bit extra money to buy a toy, and they bought one. Now, whether they rode it that much or not, that's a whole nother thing. A lot of them stay parked in a garage. But that was their demographic. But now, as we have gotten older, I'm 66 years old. Most of the guys I ride with are in their late 60s. My age. You know, we were wanting something lighter. I know the reason I sold my Heritage, and I've mentioned this before, is it just got too heavy. That bike was 760 pounds. This bike is right around 500, and you're looking at 250-pound difference. That's a lot of difference. Even though Harley Davidsons are low to the ground, they have a low seat height. They're pretty easy to flat foot. But you know, you get in a predicament where you have to move them or push them backwards. It's kind of tough. You know, the other thing too is that feet forward riding position was hurting my hips and hurting my back. I really like that I have my feet underneath me, and it's easy for me to raise up and down and get some of the weight off my butt. Plus, it's more upright. It's just a more comfortable sitting position, and the fact that it's lighter. I mean, to me, that's huge, and I think a lot of the older guys are going toward these bikes. So this is Route 70. This is going towards Statesville. quick shifter. I love it. So I know my good buddy Doug, Georgia Rambling Man, right after I bought this Triumph, he bought and you guys all know this, he bought a BMW GS750 and loves it. And you know, we talk about how much fun these bikes are, and we've kind of been missing the boat. You know, I always wanted a Harley. I've had several of them. I've had quite a few actually. And you know, when you're younger and you got plenty of strength, and it's not that hard to wrestle, you know, a 700, 800, 900 pound bike. But when you get older, you get to a point, especially if nobody's riding with you, it's like, why in the world am I torturing myself moving it in the garage? You know, you gotta think about where you're going to park it. You can't park it going downhill if you're by yourself, because you can't push it backwards, you know, if you're on a slope. So I just think that these bikes are great for the older guys. They're lighter, they're definitely faster. This is a 900. It's got about 95 horsepower. It will scoot. My Heritage, my M8, what do those things have? 80 horsepower maybe, and you're pushing 750 pounds. They got more torque, of course, but this thing's got pretty good torque too. I mean, power to weight ratio, hands down, this bike wins. But it's not about speed. It's never about that with me. It is fun riding this bike fast, but you know, I have more confidence in it, especially in the curves. It handles better. It's just quicker. I really enjoy it. Now I still have my Sportster, and that bike is 500, and I think a Sporty is 560 pounds. It's actually heavier than this bike. This is 888 cc's. It's a triple cylinder. It makes 94 point something horsepower, and I think it's 64 foot-pounds of torque. My Sporty is an 883, and it makes about half the horsepower. Not even half. I think a Sporty an 883 makes about, what is it, 45, 48, 49 horsepower, something like that. I think it's got more torque, but again, you know, you're looking at pushing 560 pounds and the power to weight ratio. Now, I love that little bike, and it goes plenty fast enough for me. But it's just kind of funny how you know, Triumph, who makes cruisers too, of course, you know, they still make that twin cylinder 1200 cc motor, which is a great motor. But it's not always about how many cc's you got. It just, the metric bikes, they, you know, Honda, Triumph, Kawasaki, Yamaha, all these, Suzuki, they've always been able to take a smaller displacement bike through water cooling and I guess higher compression maybe, and they just make more horsepower out of those engines. So where am I going with this? Well, I guess the question that I asked was, you know, a lot of people that I know have gone to, I'm gonna pass this guy up, have gone to adventure bikes or adventure style bikes. So I just want to get your guys' thoughts on the adventure bike market. I mean, if you're an older rider like me, and I think most people who watch my videos are, do they appeal to you? They're not as pretty as a cruiser. I still think cruisers are just the most beautiful motorcycle out there. They truly are. The lines on them, the way they're made, the styling, and most of them are, you know, have a V-twin motor that goes along with the cruiser. They're low slung. I just think they're gorgeous. Best looking motorcycles out there. But do these things appeal to you? I really like mine. I'm lucky enough where I have the best of both worlds. I still have my Sporty, which is a cruiser, and I have this. But, you know, for all-day comfort, it's hard to beat this style of bike. This bike will probably never go off-road other than maybe a gravel driveway. But, man, it sure is comfortable. So I would like to hear your thoughts. And I see a little bit of blue sky up there, which is promising. So I'm going to try to find a cup of coffee somewhere. So guys, thank you very much for watching. I sincerely appreciate it. Y'all take care, and we'll talk to you next time. This is Stoney. We'll see you later.